headquarters of common sense.
Talk Radio.
Yes, indeed, that wonderful organ music confirms that it is indeed Sunday, and it is time for my Sunday sermon. And before I start this week's Sunday sermon, 2 weeks ago, at my last Sunday sermon, it was all about Rishi Sunak being out of touch. And I think maybe I had some form of prescience, because given what's emerged, he was so out of touch that he didn't realise how inappropriate his wife's tax arrangements may be, even though they were completely, and indeed are, completely legal. But moving on to this week's Sunday sermon, we've got to talk about what is essentially the biggest problem we face here in the UK. Now, imagine if you've got a problem, well, you want to solve it. So the first thing you do is you say, well, what's the cause of the problem? And then you say, right, now how do we avoid the cause? How do we make sure we've got a solution so that it doesn't happen again? What you don't do is double down on the cause of the problem, because of course that would make it much, much worse. Now, our energy problems, we're all feeling it in our pocket. Bills are soaring and going to soar later this year. Our energy problem is that it's unaffordable and we're dependent on others. That's the problem. And the energy strategy this week identified the problem, but completely and utterly failed to identify the right solution. Indeed, worse than that, Boris Johnson proposes he's not going to double down on the cause of the problem. He's not even going to treble down on the cause of the problem. No, he's going to quadruple down on the cause of the problem. And that is the huge increase in renewables. Now, electricity prices have trebled in the 15 years to the end of 2020. Trebled. In that same period, the percentage of renewables, renewable generation of our electricity, grew from essentially zero to just under 30%. In that same 15-year period, that electricity prices trebled. Do you think that's a coincidence? Let me tell you, it's not. There is a direct link between the massive subsidies paid to the owners of the renewable wind farms and solar farms and Drax power station, mainly to foreign owners, including, by the way, the Danish government, who turns out to be the biggest investor in all of the offshore wind farms. Yes, if it's good enough for the Danish taxpayers, why are we sending our money there? Why aren't we using our own balance sheet? The total renewable subsidies every single year is now £10 billion and rising by, guess what? The rate of inflation. And we know what's happening to that, don't we? And then there's a load of additional hidden costs called balancing costs, transmission costs, constraint costs. That's another £5 billion a year and counting. This equates to about 500 quid per year per household, directly linked to subsidies on renewables. And they didn't exist before renewables existed. So we know there's a direct link. And what's Boris done? He's quadrupling down on offshore wind. Utterly unbelievable. Now, there might be some economies of scale as you load up, but basically, more renewables means more subsidies, more network costs, and the cost will go up and up. I'm going to be doing some work with some experts in the coming days and weeks on the forecast increase in costs. But in broad terms, I think in the next 5 years, from here, I think electricity prices could double. In the next 10 years, they could well treble if we carry on down Boris's proposed solution. I've said it before, we are just at Everest Base Camp of the net zero cost mountain, just at base camp. Now, the solution to make it much more affordable is, firstly, we've got to stop all of these new renewable subsidies. The second thing we've got to do is we've got to use the treasure under our feet that I've been talking about for weeks, the shale gas. Now, in fairness, I'm a fair guy. Boris's strategy does make a brief passing to shale gas. Yes, they stopped cementing the wells. That was good. And it says there's a sort of a 3-month review of the technology. I'm pretty sure that basically means that they don't want to proceed it. We should be using our shale gas. It's the fastest way to increase the supply of our own gas that will bring the price down. Now, at least Boris's energy strategy did agree to issue some more licenses in the North Sea for oil and gas, but it's probably at least 3 years minimum before any of that comes on stream. That's the same period for which you could get some shale gas on stream. And of course, offshore is much more expensive than onshore. The only really good thing about Boris's strategy was he agrees we need some more nuclear power stations. But it takes a decade, probably, to build the first one. There is one under construction at the moment, Hinkley Point C. It's due for completion in 2026. My prediction to you, based on what I'm hearing about the cost overruns and the delays, we'll be very lucky if that is open before 2030. So gas and nuclear are the only things that will bring prices down and create self-sufficiency. Because let's remember, the wind doesn't always blow. And I'm going to be talking later about the dangers of the renewable industry's solution to this. They think you need lots more batteries. Well, we'll be talking about batteries and their safety or otherwise a bit later. There's nothing in Boris's plan, short term, to deal with the cost of energy here and now. For the man who got Brexit done, he's failing to use one of the great Brexit opportunities, which is to cut VAT on domestic fuel to zero. He hasn't abolished the 25% levies, which he should do, which should be moved to general taxation. And that is, in my view, a disaster. He could have reduced the bills per house by £300 to £400 per year, and he and the out-of-touch Chancellor deliberately chose not to. So I recap. Let's just refresh on this. If you've got a problem, you identify the cause of the problem and you propose a solution to avoid the cause. What you don't do, what you never do, surely, is to double down or treble down on that very thing that caused the problem. And yet, that is exactly what Boris Johnson is doing with his energy strategy, and I think that it will unravel over the coming months, because I think the bills, sadly, are going to go up and up and up. They're already forecasting in October another 50% on the energy cap. It's not acceptable. And I'm saying that Boris Johnson, you're going to have to rethink. Your energy strategy is energy lunacy. Here endeth my Sunday sermon. Well, there we are. That's my Sunday sermon this morning. We've got to be talking about energy. And coming up after the break, I'm going to be talking to Dr. John Constable from the Renewable Energy Foundation, a real expert who understands the impact of these costs on all of our livelihoods.
Good talk.
Hot talk. Bold talk. Talk radio.
Listen on your smart speaker.
Watch it live on your smart TV.
The world headquarters of common sense.
Talk Radio.